there are tons of millionaire and billionaire stories out there, ranging from how insane their money is, how fast they go about multiplying their millions or billions, how flashy their cars are, and how massive their multi-million mansions are. But there is very little information out there with regards to how exactly these millionaires and billionaires go about making their money, and most importantly, how they go about multiplying their money. Of course, they're gonna tell you, for example, they have interest in technology, pharmaceuticals, financial services, name it. Regardless of talking about which sector, how comes a small percentage of people out there are able to amass this massive fortune? And by the way, their fortune is increasing astronomically day in, day out. Yet, the majority of the world, over 99% of the world, are actually wallowing in the hard economic situations. Talk about high inflation, high unemployment, dips in salary and layoffs, and so forth. How comes a small percentage is able to amass and continue skyrocketing their net worth? Is exactly that I'm going to be sharing with you in this video. Don't get mistaken, all this is not accidental, it is by design. You're going to learn there is a formula behind creating wealth so that you too could be able to work towards becoming a millionaire or even a billionaire. And by the way, out of the top 100 billionaires, 68% of them are actually self-made. This means they came from nothing to amassing the insane wealth we know of today. Take an example of American billionaire Ralph Lauren. Ralph Lauren came from very humble beginnings. Matter of fact, in early 1960s, he was working a regular job with an average salary. Yet, in late 60s, he came up with a Polo brand. Right now, we're talking about Polo brand having hundreds of products out there. This puts Ralph Lauren at a fortune of over $7 billion US. Another example, take an example of Kenyan billionaire Julius Malema. Malema was actually homeless. He was seeking asylum a few decades ago. Right now, Malema has a net worth of over 27 billion Kenyan shillings. And of course, he has interest in technology and also the health sector. Having said that, you can possibly see that this is not a marriage. All this is possible. You too can be able to amass insane amounts of money you're thinking of. You know, this is possible. Ralph Lauren did it. Julius Malema did it. You too can do it. But there is a formula behind this, as I'm going to share with you in this entire video. You're going to learn it doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen by mistake. Success is actually planned out. You are all much welcome to my channel. My name is Afagza Sifuna. You might be wondering, maybe you're working a job on a low salary. How can you over time be able to also become a millionaire or a billionaire? Why not? It is very possible. As you've seen, for example, Ralph Lauren made it from an average salary. You too can make it. All it requires is dedication and implementing the plan you're gonna see in this video. Starting point is for you to appreciate that the money you're making is not unique to you. You might be thinking making low salary out there, but actually across the world, people out there are making far less monies out there than you're making. Meaning you might be having the propensity, the opportunity to taking off faster than them because you could be able to unlock surplus. You know, take a look at this graph. You can see across the 4 continents, that's Africa, Asia, Europe, and the USA. All these continents, we're talking about the saving rates being quite low, despite the absolute amount of average salary varying drastically. For example, the average salary in Africa is a proportion of what is the average salary in Europe and the US. Matter of fact, under a sixth of the average salary in these 2 continents. Yet, the saving rate, for example, in Africa is higher than in the US. This tells you that it is not the absolute amount of salary that you make that matters. It is what you do with that money which matters. And that is exactly, guys, where there is the secret between the rich and the poor. The secret is in the money flow. Money flow has 4 items under it. The very first item is incomes. Essentially, the money you're getting through trading your effort, trading your time, and so forth. Okay? For example, money from salaries, that is income. Okay? The second which is key in the money flow, is expenses. All of us out here have expenses. Whether you are rich or poor, we have expenses relating to, for example, rent, for example, food, for example, paying off utilities, and so forth. We all have expenses. And then the third thing in the money flow is liabilities. What is liabilities? Liabilities is essentially what you owe other parties out there. For example, you paying off your credit card, you paying off a liability, okay? You, for example, paying mortgage, right? You, for example, paying your car bill, and so forth. All these are liabilities. And then the fourth thing in the money flow is assets. What are assets? Assets are essentially those investments, whether tangible or non-tangible, which are able to generate incomes for you. Talk about businesses, talk about assets, for example, like real estate, okay, and so forth. These are examples of assets out there. So these are the four constituents of the money flow, right? We're talking about the first thing, income. We're talking about expenses. We're talking about liabilities. And then we're talking about assets. Ladies and gentlemen, there is where we have the difference between the rich and the poor. Let's look at the poor person's money flow. The poor person gets their salary. Of course, we all know they are living paycheck to paycheck. They get the salary. The first thing they go to sort is their expenses, the household expenses. Talk about food, talk about rent, talk about paying off utilities, that's water, electricity, and so forth, okay? Talk about them having money for transport, and so forth. All these are actually expenses. So they have to take care of them, whether they like it or not, because they're the basic minimum to take care for you to be able to survive. After they've sorted out their expenses, the next stop is for them to sort out their liabilities, because they have also found themselves in a trap whereby they are living while utilizing liabilities, and also over time, sadly, these liabilities become also expenses. Talk about paying off credit cards, okay? Talk about paying off mortgage. Talk about paying off the car bills, and so forth. And by the way, talking of credit cards, that's a very big trap. If someone doesn't know how to use them, they're going to perpetually be living paycheck to paycheck, because their credit cards are going to be utilizing most of their salary by paying off each and every month. And they're going to find themselves in that cyclic trap of paying off credit cards of their hard-earned cash. And then, after a poor person pays off their expenses and liabilities, they are left with nothing. And that's where the rain starts beating them. Because under assets, they have nothing to invest in assets. What this means is that in essence, they're gonna go back to the same cycle. They'll wait for the next paycheck for them to be able to trigger that cycle again. Expenses, liabilities, cut it, back to the next paycheck. And this is where there is a difference between the rich people and the poor people. The rich people money flow is slightly different, because for the rich, when they get the salary at the beginning, they of course have to sort their expenses, because expenses have to be sorted out. Talk about food, rent, and so forth. They have to sort that out. Then after they've sorted out their expenses, their next stop is assets. It is not liabilities. And this is so because of two reasons. They understand the power of assets, that for them to be financially free, over time, they need to understand and start working on generating more and more income. Okay? You cannot rely on only a single source of income, the salary, for you to be financially free, or even for you to become a millionaire. People with a millionaire mindset understand that over time, they need to have multiple sources of income. So after sorting off their expenses, their next stop is for them to delve into assets. Talk about investing in stocks, for example, okay? And investing in stocks is going to give them dividends after some time. Or talk about opening a business. Opening a business is going to give them profit after some time, right? Talk about investing in real estate. Real estate is going to give them rental income after some time, and so forth. So the rich intentionally purpose to invest in assets. They have their income figured out very well. They know X% of their income is going to sort expenses. X% is going to go towards increasing their asset base. And then a given percentage is going to go towards their liabilities. Again, the rich are very intentional about liabilities. They don't get into unnecessary liabilities. That's why you find someone, for example, is a millionaire, but they don't need a Lamborghini. They don't need a Ferrari, because they know these are just vibrant goods which are actually very highly priced, yet their utility is not that high value for money for them. So they know they need to put their money in assets, so that assets can be able to give them more and more income over time. And that is what separates the poor and the rich. The rich have the investing mindset, they intentionally go about investing, yet the poor are caught up in the trap of that rat race, whereby they're living paycheck to paycheck. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't want to be part of the poor mindset. From today henceforth, you too be part of the rich mindset. Plan your income very well. Have a portion for expenses, have a portion for investing in assets, and then have a portion for sorting out liabilities. And also, you need to be very clear with regards to how not to get to huge liability traps. Talking about that, these are the 5 things you can do to ensure you actually work towards becoming a millionaire. The very first thing is cut off unnecessary expenses. I've already hinted at that. Just cut it off, okay? You don't have to be swiping your credit card, for example, to go out there and party. You don't need to be swiping your credit card, for example, to go and buy unnecessary designer clothes and so forth. Live within your budget. Once you start living within your budget, cut off the unnecessary expenses, you're gonna be way on course towards unlocking money for investing. Talking about investing, the second tip is kindly invest. Don't just be living paycheck to paycheck. Invest. Whichever amount of money you can start with, invest. And by the way, when it comes to investing, nothing is small amount of investment. And with this current ecosystem, whereby the different options out there, we have different options out there, you can utilize whichever option. For example, you could sit there, say, for example, the Vanguard share is over 4K US dollars. Yes, it is over 4K US dollars. But with the current technology, we have options for fractional shares out there. Different trading platforms, for example, Robinhood, Coinbase, and so forth, allow for fractional share, purchasing of fractional shares. You too, even for example, having $100 only, you too can buy a portion of the Vanguard stock. Okay? So start as soon as you can and start with whichever amount. There is no small investment. Ultimately, any investment goes a long way towards contributing to that income pot. And by the way, talking about no small investment, when you start today, then over some years, you're gonna see your investment become massive. And that leads me to my third point. Invest with a long-term thinking mentality. Don't invest for the short term, because it is very clear no one out there beats the market. And even people telling you out there, for example, they're trading over 90% lose on a regular. They're losing their money, they're losing their net worth. No one out there beats the market. So invest with the mindset of long-term investing. In case you do that, you're going to realize that if you invest, for example, for over 7 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, your net worth is going to increase drastically because of 2 principles. One of it being the price correction in the market. Over time, the market tends to correct its prices. As you can see in this graph, over the years, the prices of different stock markets across the world have been dipping and increasing sporadically, but the increase are more than dips. What in essence it means that over time, you're going to have a steady growth in your investment. For example, say somewhere between 8-12%, but occasionally we have those shocks in the market, whereby we have insane dips, but also we have those good days, whereby at times even the increase is over 30% and so forth. Guys, invest and have the long-term thinking mentality, because through that you're going to be able to increase your income and also increase your asset base. Because of the price corrections over years, most likely you're going to be able to make money. And secondly, you also investing for the long term is going to assist you actually benefit from compounding. What is compounding? Compounding is actually capitalizing on the increase in the rates, which actually ensures, rather than just a rate increasing nominally, for example, a fixed rate of 10% per year, assuming a given stock is increasing at 10% per year, over the next 7 years or so, it's going to have increased by over 2 times. Over the next 10 years, 20 years, we're talking about it having increased over 4 times and so forth. So this shows you that you need to invest and hold for the long term. And as you see this graph here, you can see comparison between 3 different investors. One who invested the first year, realized the shocks in the market starting with the second year dipped. Other one left at the 4th year. And that one is holding strong. This one who is holding strong has almost twice what they invested in this particular stock at $200 US. The ones who dipped most likely took their money, went and bought some maybe products out there, even maybe some luxury products, and that was the end of it. Right now, the only remaining investor in this particular scenario is continuing to increase their net worth. And even him holding or her holding this particular stock for the next 30-40 years, you're talking about possibly them even having clocked tens of thousands of dollars on this. That shows you it is important to hold for the long term. And then the fourth thing is that never time the market. This relates to holding for the long term. Never time the market, and that's self-explanatory. No one out here beats the market. In case you time in the market trying to day trade most in stocks and other options out there, you're gonna most likely end up losing money because the market is very volatile, more so in the recent asset base. For example, cryptos and the like, it is very volatile. Never time the market, invest for the long term, because studies out there are very clear. A small percentage of people out there are able to beat the market, and even those who are able, they can do that persistently. Okay, and then the last pointer is network. What do I mean? There are people out there with the like mind you have, the millionaire mindset. Okay, there are people out here who know opportunities which you don't know of. Okay, there are people out here with connections which you don't have. So network greatly, and as you continue unlocking money to invest in assets, you networking, you building your asset base, over time you're gonna have the propensity for you to diversify your portfolio, because you're gonna have know-how of which are the good assets out there. Combination of fundamental and technical analysis is gonna assist you. So network, diversify, and also you're gonna have an opportunity at skyrocketing your net worth, and hopefully you're gonna become a millionaire or billionaire. I hope you learned a thing or two from this video. Thanks a lot. Cheers. See you next time.